Welcome everybody. We are excited for our second episode here at We Should Talk, where we have some discussions around this one small table that's over here on my right. I know you can't see it, but yeah, we are just excited to have you here with us and to continue on our discussion that we are having just on our topic of authentic church community. So today, I have Heinu with me. You met him last week.
Lekker.
Lekker, Heinu. Glad to have you here. Anything
Lekker,
new
good to be
happening
back.
in your life?
Not much. Nothing to report on yet.
Okay.
So-
Zander is his smallest child. How old is Zander?
2 years old. 2 years old. So that's fun. There's a saying that says there's the terrible twos. It's normally connected to children that are just, it's when they actually realize that they are humans and that they have needs, and that those needs will be, if no one's going to fight for my needs, I'm going to fight for my needs. And that's where children start the tantrum phase and falling on the floor and kicking and screaming. And I had a good one this morning. One of his brothers, so they wake up before us,
Yeah.
and then we can hear them walking in the house. We've got wooden floors, and so we can hear them walking in the house and playing games and whatever. And then at some stage they come to the bed and they say, hey, we're hungry or we want food, or it's like, okay, go make yourself some porridge or put a neutro or whatever. And Zander would come and say, he wants milk, which is just the formula, the powder milk that we give him. And I asked one of the boys to try. I was like, just see if you can do it. And so he takes a little cup and he takes the powdered milk and he throws it into the cup. Like the worst thing you can do with powdered milk is throw it. No, it should be in a sippy, like a sippy cup. No, they throw it in a glass and they mixed it with a fork that they found somewhere. I don't know. And so the kitchen was just under a hectic mess. And so obviously Zander didn't get his milk the way he wanted it. And so I woke up with a nice tantrum next to my bed.
Great. That sounds like a lot of fun, but also a lot of frustrations. But it sounds nice to have kids, I
It
must
is
say.
nice.
I think it brings a joy into your life. Like today, so also we have... So today also we have Arnold with us. Arnold is one of our friends. He works also with us. Like Arnold, please introduce yourself. Tell us more about who you are and where you come from.
Thanks, Yvette. It's good to sit around in a circle. And I think, again, also with me, the whole thing of having to introduce yourself, I find it a bit tricky because I guess it almost like goes back to the question of who are you? Describe yourself apart from telling me what you do. So it's tricky, but my name is Arnold Matapa. That's my surname, and I grew up in Giyani. That's in Limpopo, and I am the first of 5. So we are quite a big family back home, and my siblings are all grown. I think the last in the family she's now 13 years old. But yeah, so that's basically me. I've lived half my life back home. In fact, more than half now here in Pretoria. But yeah, I'm here, and I love life, and I love Christ, and I love people.
That's great. That's awesome.
But Arnold, who are you really? It's
just a joke.
It's just a joke.
Where am I really?
Do you guys remember that movie? What was it? Anger Management with
I've seen it, but not really. With
brilliant.
Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson and Adam Sandler. There's so the whole movie's premise is based upon this guy that has anger issues, but he doesn't actually have anger issues. It's just these anger issues are pulled from him, and so he's taken to anger management after this whole thing. And then, like the first day at anger management, the therapist asks him. This is now Jack Nicholson. He asks him, "Who are you?" And he says, "No, well, I'm so and so and so." And he says, "No, I don't want. Don't tell me what you do. Tell me who are you." He goes, "So and so and so," and says, "No. Don't tell me about your personality. Tell me who are you." And he keeps doing that until there's like this freak out session. Very good. I wish.
You know what? I think maybe he turned into Joker after that movie because he couldn't deal with the anger anymore. No, I'm just joking. Um, like, let's move on. So last week we spoke about, or we started with the main topic here that we are speaking about is authentic church community, and we've majored on authenticity and also community the last episode. So yeah, Hannah, why don't you just share what did we speak about, some recap there. I think my memory doesn't work so well, so I'm just joking.
The big thing about that, it's a very loaded tagline, authentic church community, because all of three of those words, authenticity, is something that we might delve into today a little bit. Church, I mean, obviously, what does that mean? And then community, it's almost like you would say when you look at those three words, what is the easiest one to explain? Must be community, right? So community must be, all right, let's talk about community.
Yeah.
But the thing is, that when it comes to community, that we've got so many every person has a lens of how they view community. Some people view it from their family, blood family. Some people say community must be something I read of in the newspaper. Some people say community is dead, that you can't find real community anymore. That community is something that happened in the 70s and 80s. And some people say community is stimulated only in terrible times, the famine, the Black Plague, the war times.
The classic thing of we stick together when it gets tough type of thing.
And
but
when it's
when
great.
life is flowing, the milk and honey and gold is here, everybody's on their own type of thing.
Then it's me and myself
Yeah.
on my
God
property.
is for all people, but everyone's for themselves.
Yeah. And so that's an interesting one, community. And so what we're actually saying is we're saying that church is supposed to be a very healthy community, but also come from authenticity. And authenticity is a very tough one.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that maybe a little later. And maybe just to give a little bit more of recap, we're not going to get into the scripture today, but what we were talking about is a scripture in Luke 18:9-14, talking about this idea of being authentic and I guess in some sense everyone wants to be authentic, real, proper. I always want to say transparent. But the problem is we can't be. We can't be because although on the inside we want to be, there's too many, I think, triggers and walls built up and ways for us to hide our true self. Now, here's what I mean with that. All of us want to be authentic, but we all come with masks. And so as we all come together and all of us have a face that we put on that we want people to see, you aren't really truly yourself. And so we all want to aspire to being authentic. We all want to aspire to be yourself. We would say things like, hey, yeah, just cool, be yourself. We said that yesterday. Be yourself unless you really, you suck. Then
Unless
don't be
you
yourself.
Yeah.
Then never be yourself.
Yeah.
But it's such a true thing because, okay, so I don't want to suck. I don't want to be bad. So I'm going to put up a face because I don't always feel that way. Even I wake up this morning with a headache. And I wake up with a headache and I need to come and we're gonna have some chats and we're gonna do a podcast. And immediately you think, okay, shrug off that headache, drink your coffee, be a grown-up, go sit there by the mic and let's have a chat. But even that, is that being authentic? No. And so can authenticity sometimes be a bad thing? Sometimes you hold your
Maybe
tongue.
an unhealthy way of being authentic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if it's almost like you can't hold your tongue about all of your
Yeah.
thoughts.
Because that's the thing, I think last time we also said it, people think when you're authentic, it's about being rude.
Yeah.
So if I want to be authentic, I need to be a bulldozer.
Yeah.
But it's almost but that's not the only part of what authenticity means.
Yes.
So
Have you guys seen that movie? There's a movie called The Invention of Lying by Ricky Gervais.
yeah, I have. It's quite funny.
It's funny. It is definitely borderline blaspheming. But the premise of the movie is that there was a world that existed where no one was lying. And then one day, someone invented the concept of lying. Someone invented the concept of saying something that wasn't on purpose. And so the whole beginning of the movie, people are walking around and sharing their inner thoughts. So they would walk around in the street and be like, hey, look, hey, hello, person that I have never seen before. Oh, wow, I smell your smelly breath. And, so they would constantly be talking. They would say, hi, I don't want to go on a date with you tonight because actually you're not my kind of person because you're a little bit fat and I think that you're unintelligent and I am afraid that you might not be very, I don't know,
I know Arnold
ambitious.
wants to say stuff like that.
Listen, I'm sitting here and I'm tapping my foot there because I'm like, I find you get obviously those two kinds of people where it'll be almost like I'm being hateful if I tell you the truth, and so I must just keep it in. And then there's that wisdom where I need to know how to say it, and so I often struggle with the not wanting to be truthful, and I have to cover up and put it all nicely in. But I'm just saying.
But speaking about that, so I know we're jumping maybe here, but I was thinking about if a half of a truth, good or bad.
That is an interesting thing, because are we supposed to keep truth? No, let me say it differently. So it's not that we are hiding truth, but it is the way that you package truth, right? And so the present of truth, the beautiful gift of truth, needs to be packaged correctly. You know, if I have something of great value, but I package it in newspaper. I mean, I remember as a kid, I was just like, the worst thing in this life is buying wrapping paper. Like in my mind, I was like, you spend money on something somebody's going to essentially just tear off. No one values wrapping paper, which is a bad assumption because I guess there are people that value that. But for me, I was just like, if you're going to tear it off anyway, I'm just going to use newspaper. And so now you've got this really, really valuable gift. I didn't even put the gift in a box. I just literally took that gift and I remember it was like a jacket, and I put that. I didn't even fold the jacket. I just bundled it up, put it in newspaper, and took like tape and taped it around. And I gave it to a friend, and I remember the friend looking at that present. Although what was inside was valuable, and he would like that present, the way I packaged it didn't give it value. And so it's the same way, I'm guessing, that let's say, for example, something like I meet somebody that is, I don't know, overweight. Let's say overweight, which, I mean, that is also, technically, if I get on a scale, the scale tells me I'm overweight for some reason. My body weight index is not good. And I meet somebody that's overweight, and the first thing that I notice about that person, obviously, is what they look like. You know, what hair they have, what is their race, what is their the size of them, what is it? Those are the first things that I notice. And obviously, as all people do, is we make a bunch of assumptions. So I would meet this person and he's overweight, and I would say, oh, okay, cool, what do you do? And they're like, I'm a personal trainer at Version Active. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not.
I know what you mean.
Or you meet a person, let's say the other way around. You meet a guy and you're like, what do you do for a living? And the person says, no, I'm a chef. I'm like, you are very skinny. I don't know. You know, what's that saying? You can't trust the skinny chef.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, it has to... So do you say that to someone? Hey, you're a chef. So what you do for a living is you make and eat food. But you are very skinny, which means that it is impossible for you to do that. What was that movie? Ratatouille. He talks, and then there's this critic, and the critic guy, I think his name was in the movies Igor or something like that. And the critic says, if I don't like it, I don't swallow.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like a whatch. And so what does that say about us keeping in, holding your tongue, or packaging the truth correctly? Do you walk around and tell we're just a bunch of guys sitting here. if you see a pretty girl walking past, do you just narrate your feelings and thoughts in that moment? You're like, hey, you're so pretty. I'm looking at your ponytail right now, and it looks so silky, and I want to rub it with my fingers. You know, how do
want
you?
to make some sort of, what do you call it, braid.
I want to cut a piece of your hair off and braid it into my own hair. You know,
Sounds like Song of Solomon. Just saying.
it really does.
I think as we're actually speaking about this, I'm just realizing that authenticity is defined by the truth that you build your life on.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not about saying what is relativity in the truth or relative truth, a truth that changes, but it's staying true to who you are, or obviously who God says you are. Okay, so authenticity is then found within an absolute truth. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Because it's almost a thing of your authenticity is going to be defined by your worldview. Now, worldview is defined by how you grow up, like the people around you. So it's very interesting. It's like that, because I think last time we also said, like, what's first, the chicken or the egg type of thing. By the way, I have an answer to that question. The answer is God.
Are you saying
God is first.
but no way. Like, now I've got questions now. Which is he a chicken? Cut that one out.
So no, I'm just joking. So I think there's a thing of, if you want to be authentic in that moment where you need to say something to someone that you know is the truth, okay, in the sense of what you see in front of you, okay, so objectively it's truth. But what is the true thing to do? And I think that's where authenticity goes. Authenticity goes so much deeper than what we objectively see in front of us. It speaks about such a deeper thing of what is deep inside of the way that I'm going to treat this person. It's going to speak about your authenticity rather than, oh, this is a glass bottle, or this is this. And I think that's just realizing that it's very interesting. So I think when we speak about authenticity and how that comes in, because that whole question of half of a truth, good or bad, understand?
Yeah.
And does that, I think my question on that is like, is that true to who God is?
Well, that's good. I think the word you're using here is truth. What a loaded word.
Yeah.
And what a word that people take for themselves, and they say, well, truth can be defined by me. And so you would hear things like, this is my truth. Or, this is your truth.
Feels good, it's the true thing to do, bro.
Yeah, because then what in that case that you just mentioned, it means that my emotions give truth its basis.
Yeah.
And the problem with emotions is emotions come and go. You know, you feel angry, and now so my truth is now anger, or this or that. And so people would talk about, I hear that's. I'm glad that's true for you, but here's my truth. And I'm like, okay, well, hold up. Truth points to something singular. Truth must be true. If something is true, it must be true for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, so something like, is the grass green? And somebody would say, well, it depends on your perspective. Okay, and in some sense that's true, but the problem is that what you are proposing by not just giving a straightforward answer is you're saying that truth depends on the person and not on the object.
Yeah.
And so is there an objective truth versus a subjective
Yeah.
truth, right? And so we have to say what truth is not. Truth is not simply whatever works, right? Because that's the philosophy of pragmatism.
Yeah.
Okay.
What they would say, ends versus means type of approach. In reality, lies can appear to work, right? It doesn't have to be true for it to work, because a lie could technically then work as well. But they're still lies and not the truth.
Yeah.
So truth is not simply what is coherent or understandable, Because you would say, okay, well, if the mechanism works, or it's an understandable idea, a group of people can get together and form a conspiracy, and they do often. Like a group is like groupthink, and everyone is running in a direction. They form a conspiracy based on a set of falsehoods, and they all agree upon them, and they all agree on the same story, but it doesn't make their presentation true, does it? Right? And so truth can't be that. Truth is not what makes people feel good, because bad news could be true.
Yeah.
Right? It's like
That's like the quickest way just to demolish that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever makes me feel good is true. I'm like, oh wow, have you watched the news lately? What?
Yeah.
The news is terrible, and I know obviously the news isn't neutral. The news, I mean, there's lots of political stuff behind the news,
Just
and
the agenda's always there.
exactly. So I mean, you've got there's an agenda galore, and so when you watch the news, I think apart from agendas, it's just keep the general fear monitor running. So if people are in fear, I'm
So
guessing
they can come back for more news.
for more news, exactly. Because fear is a great accelerator. Truth is not what makes people feel good, but it's also not what the majority says is true.
Yeah.
Think about how that has
That's
happened.
the most difficult one.
It
think.
is. It is. But think about how many
Yeah.
times the majority said something and they were wrong. You know, so
For sure.
let's say something like, I mean, we can technically just jump to any of the dictatorships and go
Yeah.
that side and say, well, the majority of, let's say, this group of people hated the minority of that people, and I mean that wasn't true. But let's just take something controversial from our context. Let's say something like Christians in South Africa on race,
Sure.
and how that has changed over time. And not just Christians, but churches and church leadership. There was a time where the majority of the churches and the church leadership legitly and actually believed that there is differences in race concerning
Yeah.
going to heaven.
Yeah.
Right? That is crazy.
Yeah.
And so just because the majority believed it,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that is true.
Yeah.
Or it says it almost says when we believe that, it almost says that if we can get everyone to agree, that then we create a new truth, which is the greatest fallacy of democracy, isn't it? How dangerous is democracy? I don't want to go down down that route now. But just how dangerous is democracy? Because you could technically just manipulate everyone into believing something. Everyone
That's
believes
where
that.
propaganda comes in.
Right.
Yeah.
When I was in school, and we didn't choose the head boy and head girl on the merit of their leadership or how good
Yeah.
they do, or none of that. It was a popularity contest. Who is the popular person? Who's the rugby captain? Who's the person who's the tallest? Who's the
Yeah, it's
person
the biggest hands.
who's got the big? It's like ridiculous, and that's how it happened. And so I'm not, by no means am I saying that God can't use that and
Yeah.
He doesn't make all things work. I'm just saying, when I grew up, my head leaders, I was in the, what do you call it, like prefect. I was a prefect, and even that, it has nothing to do with how I was a terrible influence. God, like I was the worst person you could possibly elect to guide a bunch of students into truth. By majority.
I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, just as speaking about this whole thing of democracy, and without having to go too deep into that, I wonder if, a lot of the things we believe today are obviously just fueled by our cultures and our surroundings, right? And so I'm thinking, this is probably one of those things where that's probably, it makes it even more difficult for a lot of us, even as Christians, or for a non-believer to even consider being a Christian, because then we're speaking about this idea that God runs his own kingdom, not in a democratic way.
Sure.
And so now, when I say to you, listen, it's what you always knew to be truth, and how the world runs and how kingdom thing works, which I don't think today in the world we even understand that rightly. We're like, hey, listen, that's not how God runs His kingdom.
Yeah.
You don't vote for a new king every time, and so although you think you've got truth, your truth has to be submitted under the true truth.
Yeah.
And so already there we lose this thing of relative truth and this individualistic way of doing things as well. So that's good. It just got me to think that this might just be one of the things that makes it quite difficult for our world today to consider even being a Christian.
Sure.
In that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what I hear is just your authenticity. Being authentic is staying true to God, staying true to Jesus. Him saying, it's interesting we say true, but Him saying, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Okay, no one comes to the Father except through me. So, if He is the truth that I build my life on, my authenticity will look like His. The way that because it's that thing of being real. Let me be real about what God is saying about you. Yeah? Let me be real about, obviously, because there's obviously that part of, I'm going to be real about how I feel about something, or I might feel sad about this, or I might, but then it almost brings us back into, and I think I love this word authenticity. It just tells me something about, if I'm authentic, that means I'm relying on God. Does that make sense? That
Which
means
is good. I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
So authenticity cannot be only you pursuing what you want or what you would say. Or so what? Yeah, but what you're saying is that authenticity isn't me only being my true self, because truth is something that cannot be held by the individual, which means that God must be part of authenticity.
Yeah, He is the foundation.
Yeah.
He needs to be the foundation. If Jesus is not the foundation of my authenticity, then I'm following the authenticity of, as we spoke, like culture.
Yeah.
In this culture, you do this and this and that. That's what it means to be real, or that's what it means.
And so the thing is that even though we say we agree on this, we as people don't react on this.
Yeah.
So we would, literally the way that we set up now is the three of us are sitting and talking to one another and agreeing, but actually agreeing on that doesn't make it more or less true, does it? Yeah. Even us agreeing on authenticity,
That's good.
doesn't actually make it more or less true. Our agreement doesn't contribute to the truthfulness of true authenticity if it's based on God.
No.
And so that thing about even sitting in councils and having discussions, and we read this earlier. I don't know why we read that, but now somehow it's coming back to me.
Yeah.
Is even sitting in councils and in church leadership and having discussions, God says, all right, but remember, I need to be there where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name concerning disciplining someone or having a conversation with someone. Or God says, oh, that's good, and do that. But remember that the truth won't come out just because you're majority. 51% of a group could be wrong.
Yeah.
It's because I'm there.
Yeah.
I must be present. I must be part of that.
Yeah, that's good.
That's very good. I'm just thinking of, I know made this comment earlier as we started about, just I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but I thought it was very good. But I wanted to say, we're speaking about being authentic. The whole, I'm thinking. So I've got in mind a believer, meaning a Christian, and a non-Christian, and how you can go to a Christian can say I'm being authentic. And then also a non-Christian can say, I'm also being authentic. And so Everett said, being authentic is being true to Christ. And yet, a non-believer can say, I don't believe in Christ, and yet I'm being authentic. And yet, deep inside them, there's a longing to want to be authentic. If this makes sense. So there's a, if I'm not, it's almost like you know that you're robbing yourself of something. You're longing to want to be true. And yet this true doesn't come from within you. That's what doesn't make it, it's never subjective. And so both Christian and non-Christian, we both have a longing to want to live for something, because then they're not already, it's almost like we've got there's an expectation that we want to live out to. And that is, of course, all truth is God's truth, as someone once said. And so whether believer or non-believer, we cannot run away from the fact that we want to be authentic. Yeah.
That's good.
And there's some that connection between authenticity and truth just comes back again, because if you want to be authentic, you need to bank on something that's true.
Yeah.
All right. But how can I bank on something that's true? How do I decide what's true? Because what we're saying is that every person has his own truth, or every person has a different view of reality, or every person has and so when you speak to people, I mean, we're talking about Christians and non-Christians here, but let's just talk about the average normal person on the street. maybe doesn't believe in, doesn't have religion, doesn't believe in God, but why be moral? Why do the right thing? Why get into your car and expect other people to do the right thing?
Yeah.
Driven by survival.
But
Yeah.
somebody would say something like, because I don't need a God to help me with my intentions. Like you know that saying that says, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It's like, what a terrible saying. Like I always say, what a terrible saying. I don't know. I don't know how biblical that is, but it does preach well.
Yeah.
So, what do you like? Your intentions could be off. So, truth is not how or defined by what we intend.
Yeah.
So, how my intentions are formed, truth cannot be on that, because good intentions can still be wrong.
Which is very interesting, because I feel like you have to double click a bit on that. Yes, why?
Arnold and his double clicks.
No, really. But I mean, think about it. I mean, we'll say things like your intention. What did you say? Let's say I wanted to buy you coffee this morning, which I think I did, but I didn't do it. And then I come to you and I say, hey, listen, I actually thought of buying you coffee.
Yeah.
And then you say to me, oh well, it's the intention that counts. But you see how we're weighing in so much on the intention.
Sure.
And so you're saying that even the intent, it's almost like the intention. Just again, just double click a bit on that, on the whole thing of intention, because I feel as though that's how we base a lot of things. Oh, I had a right intention. You can't fault me on that.
Yeah, because the problem with people, and this is universal, is that people judge others on their actions.
Yeah.
But you judge yourself on your intentions.
Okay, that's deep.
Sure, that is good.
That's why what do you call that? Mic drop.
And so the problem with that is let's say you drive in your car and you see someone, I don't know, skipping a robot. And you're like, oh, that person, that taxi driver, always just skipping the robot, because look at what he's doing. And then you would say, that person would say, your taxi drivers are just the worst, and I hate taxi drivers, and they're all the same. And you're like, okay, I guess there is some, like a mathematical way of saying, okay, taxi drivers kind of have a certain slant to not following the rules of the road. But how did you just come to that conclusion? No, because what he did. I saw him there. He skipped the robot. Yes, but I've seen you skip a robot before. Yeah, but I skipped the robot because we were on our way to the hospital. We were, I skipped the robot because it was 2:00 in the morning, or I skipped the robot because I honestly didn't see it. So you see, the problem there is that the way that you are judging yourself is by your intentions, but you are judging others by what you see and what you can gather from. So what is true? What is being authentic? Because then you would say, we would say as people, let's take the coffee one. So my intention was to buy you coffee. Why did you want to buy me coffee? No, because I want to be nice. I want to value you. Okay, but you didn't. Yes, but I want to value you.
Yeah.
Okay. But this other friend that did buy me coffee and did bring it, what was the difference? No, we both had the same intention, so we should both be viewed and
Equally.
valued the same.
Yeah.
Like, no, but the one bought coffee. So
Yeah.
It's that your actions speak for. It's applying what you are.
yes, but you
Basically.
know that I mean this is something
Sure.
when we want to lean into faith,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
some
yeah.
people say,
Yeah.
I've got
I
faith,
believe,
and then
yeah,
what does
yeah.
James say?
Show me
by
your
your.
faith, by your deeds.
By your
Yeah.
deeds, by your
Yeah.
actions, by your works, by
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
do. And so what
Yeah.
James is literally saying is he's saying your intentions are worth nothing.
Sure.
It's hard truth.
It's actually about I think it's almost like then where does your action come from? And it's both. It needs to be both. And I think that you can't separate it.
So you could throw that on its head and then make this conversation worse. You could go and say, I did buy you coffee, but it's
it
so
was
that
for
you can burn
bad
your
in-
tongue.
Yeah.
Like I wish that you would burn your tongue.
Follow. Yeah.
And so I bought you coffee, and I'm like, oh, here's some coffee. You must drink it quickly because, and then you know, right? And so you could do the right thing with terrible intentions.
Actually, I mean, think of feeding your chicken just to kill it,
Yes.
which is
Yummy. I like chicken.
Get that chicken nice and fat
Yeah.
so we can eat nice fat chicken. I don't know if I want fat chicken. Like chicken shouldn't have fat. But let's say a little calf. I'm giving this little calf like Wagyu meat, right? It's essentially people just raising cows in a different way,
Yeah.
massaging their bodies so that they can have juicy steaks.
the chickens back home
So
don't
weird.
have fat. We'll call them hard bodies.
Hard
Like
bodies.
Hard body, like it's a
Like a Nissan.
yeah, exactly. That thing, because those chickens, they get up in the morning and they sprint until they go to bed, and they're super
Crazy.
skinny and healthy.
That's
Just
great.
And so, thinking about, is it possible that I could think that I am being authentic right now, but my intentions are so far off that I am lying to what is really true and what is subjectively true and what is morally true.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying that I'm being authentic in the name of something completely wrong
From yourself.
from myself
Yeah.
because it's not based from God.
Yeah.
Now we very quickly said that God must be the basis. But do you
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
see that
yeah.
philosophically?
No, I understand.
No, I
Like
can-
philosophically,
can.
people don't make that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if I may, I've got a question there on that, because again, we're scratching on a lot of stuff, and I know we don't want to overstretch this here, but I'm thinking that then the question is, because I mean, I can just be, I can walk out of this conversation and be like, shucks. So I always have to rethink my intentions, even coming to church on a Sunday.
Yes.
Even you standing up and giving a sermon on a Sunday could be from your intentions could be flawed.
Yeah, that
or,
could be.
or
They
you
probably
mean
are.
well. Yeah. So how does God deal with us in that manner? Meaning, you see what I'm saying? Because
It's going to
does it,
smite
not-
us.
does it become the thing of I have to always be watching over my shoulder?
God is coming for you, Arnie.
Like a lion.
Yeah, that's well. Look, if that's how God deals with me, I'm never intending to do anything good. I mean, I'm gonna. It's a hopeless battle.
That is a very good thing. That's a very good summary. It is a hopeless battle. And so why are you fighting?
Yeah.
That's motivation, because it is motivation and intentions, the same thing.
Well, it could be because what motivates you?
Yeah.
Is your intentions or what?
Probably.
I don't.
Well,
I don't
it
think
can't
you
be
can
just-
I don't think you can separate the two. I think they like kind of fall on each other.
So honestly, the intention, when we talk about intention, it means what I meant when I did this. But the problem is, even if you think that is what you meant, if you really go deeper down, you realize that was not really. You guys know that most people don't actually come to Christ for the right intentions,
That'll make sense.
right?
Yeah.
So the first time somebody told you about Jesus and Him saving and Him being the Savior and wanting to take away your sin. And most people on that spectrum say,
Yeah.
okay, I'll take that free Savior thing. That sounds good. I'm quite desperate.
Yeah.
What a terrible intention of submitting to Christ.
Mm.
On the other side, you would find somebody that says, hell is awaiting you. Don't go to hell. Let's snatch you from the fire pit.
Mm.
And you're like, okay, I just don't want hell. Okay, I'll take Jesus. What a terrible, what a terrible reason for. And so your question, Arnold, is, well, how does God deal with? Well, first of all, if we start realizing just how wicked and flawed we are, and just how depraved we are, now, we're not merely slaves to sin. We're lovers of it, which is a quote someone said once.
That's big.
That's
a sermon right there. Sadly, that's what we should be preaching.
We should make a sermon series called Lovers of Sin.
Lovers of Sin. See how many people come to church.
Because that's the thing, though, is on the inside. And this is one of those very philosophical things that guys want to talk about. They want to say, "Oh, people intrinsically are good, and the world made them bad, or are they intrinsically bad and the world is making them
Just brought out what was always there."
Yes.
Yeah.
And so obviously, if you look into the world, you see evil.
Mm.
You see evil, right? And no person with eyes and a mind can look at the world and say, no, there's no evil, there's no... Well, I guess there probably is some cult somewhere that believes everything is good. But the point is that when you look at it, you're like, oh, that can't be good. So what happened? Is it because people are evil? Or is it because people are good and they just became evil? Or what is the... And so theologically speaking, what the Bible says is it says that people are not good.
Yeah.
You know, there's scriptures that say that every person has fallen short of the glory. No one is good, not even one.
Sure.
The heart overflows with evil things. I mean, you can. The wages of sin is death. We look at these things and we say, I wonder if people can be good. Is it possible that somebody could be good without Christ? I almost want to say, even somebody with Christ still has. There's still a human side. There's still a heart side. There's still I need to become more like Jesus, right? And so Jesus still needs. If I need to become more like Jesus, that means that there's still stuff that's not like Him.
Yeah.
Which means what is another word for not being like Jesus? Missing the mark, missing the standard.
Yeah.
Sin.
Mm.
Right? So if that's the case, coming back to that buzzword here, authenticity and truth and
that's good.
How those things are connected. All right, so what we're saying that you can't really be authentic without God.
Yeah.
Because there's no truth actually without God. If we look again at some of the things that truth is not comprehensive. Or what is comprehensive? So just because you talk a lot, that must be true. Truth is not defined.
Confidence.
Truth is not defined by the confident.
Yeah.
You know, the guys that can talk the loudest.
Yeah.
Oh, we see this in the political system. You get people that they are very well versed and they are great speakers and they're great influencers. Doesn't mean that what they're saying is true. To take, I mean, just something like a Hitler, which is very clearly bad, but people believed him. People were running. But I mean, you could get a Gandhi. He was saying some true things, I'm guessing. He was wise. He was confident in what he was saying, but was everything what he was saying true? Truth is not defined by what is intended, as we said earlier. But listen to this one. Truth is not simply what is believed. Because a lie could be believed.
So it's not always famous.
Truth is not what is publicly proven.
That's good.
Sure.
Because the truth can be privately known. For example, if you have to bury a treasure, I know where the treasure is buried, but it's just me.
Yeah.
It's in secret.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, when we look at truth, there's these three categories, just philosophical categories that truth is placed in. And we don't have to talk about them too deeply, but I think just mentioning them and then connecting that to us trying to be authentic. Right? Here are the three. Number one, truth is what that which corresponds with reality. So it has to be real.
Yeah.
Truth is that which matches an object. Okay, so it needs to match an object. And three, truth is, in layman's terms, is saying it like it is. Now, some people might say, "Yeah, but your perspective on it is different than mine." Okay, we'll just stop. Just wait.
Yeah.
Say it like it is, not like you interpret it. Say it like it is.
Literal.
Yeah. And so that literal might be a deep part of it. Objective, subjective, maybe. If we want to be authentic people in community, when we say that we take back authentic church community, there must be other lenses in our lives that contribute to this. And so we're not saying every person has his truth, but we're saying that every person can contribute to that. If God holds all truth together, then people can contribute certain sides of that truth, and that's good and that's true, and that's why we can learn from one another. But God isn't surprised by truth. There's a fancy word that theologians use that says that God is omniscient, which is the same word. Nescient is the same root word that we use for science. Omniscient, which means knowledge. And so, all knowledgeable. God knows everything. There is nothing that God does not know. And so, therefore, God is not surprised by input. God is not surprised by truth. I don't bring something to the table and God's like, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that." No, God does know that, even if it's something in future. And so God knows everything. God cannot actually...
He doesn't learn as he goes.
He doesn't learn, right? So God doesn't sit in a classroom and learn.
Yeah.
He's not... Things aren't coming to God and he adds to his library. Now his library is full.
Sure.
So we as people have to bank on God.
Yeah.
But we also need to let other people
Yeah.
speak up and say a little bit about their lens. And so I think that's maybe a good steering into a conversation of, if we're saying community or family or church, or where do we get that from? Well, we probably get some of that from our own experiences in blood family.
Yeah.
Right? And so I've got many experiences in my blood family. I've got many, the ways that I view the world, the ways that I see things. But so that we all have differences and thinking about some of those things. One of those, which we can maybe talk about, and it would be great to hear some of your experiences, is thinking about the setup of the nuclear family. So in my case, mom, dad, still married.
Do they look like aliens? Was the nuclear radiation?
No.
Oh, no.
Nuclear obviously just meaning
Yeah.
the conglomerate of.
That's still a big word.
I'm
You just
sorry.
said nuclear and
the normal the house family. What is your immediate little, in Afrikaans
The
there's the word
closest
gesinnetjie.
people that are your family that's closest
Yeah,
in vicinity or what?
in the vicinity. In my
Okay.
case, it would be my mom, my dad, still married, and I've got 2 younger brothers. So just my little. That's how I grew up. Obviously now, as I'm sitting here, my little nuclear family is my wife and my 3 boys. And my family right now, Chanel and I and my 3 boys, look very similar to my family where I grew up. It's also mom and dad and 3 boys.
Yeah.
So, is that a coincidence? Was that programmed in? Is it because I'm living from a lens?
Part of the matrix.
Is it part of the matrix and we need to escape it? yeah, I don't know if you guys want to lean in. What are your experiences just concerning that, and maybe comment on some of the possible ways that that has an impact on the way you are and on how your authenticity would look.
That's big. So I think, I mean, as I said earlier, I lived half of my life back home and most of my life in Pretoria. But I still remember talking about how we all raised and how different that is from person to the next. So I still remember one of the first things I had to learn was how to hold a knife and a fork. I had to learn that. I'd never, I mean, back home, we don't use that stuff. I mean, the day I take out a fork, it's Christmas. When rice comes out, right? That's,
When rice
when
comes
rice comes out, that's it. I kid you not. So, and also another thing is, and these are the things that I actually never really noticed much in that time, but only now as I start interacting more with my white friends and all of that. So when over meal times back home, we would one of the two things would happen. I'm talking now, especially referring to dinner. We would eat together with a soapy playing. So like one of those, whether it's a Scandal, whether it's a those soapies that play at like 7:30.
Yeah.
So would
Igoli.
Yeah, classic.
yeah. So we'd be having dinner, quote unquote, together, but while watching that, right? So obviously we would never really converse. We'd just be watching that. Or when that is not on, like you kind of do your own thing. You know, if you want to grab a dish up for yourself and go sit somewhere outside, you do that.
Yeah.
And now I had to move from that context to when I came to Pretoria, we had our own, where I stayed, we had our own restaurant. Now I was forced to eat with other people. That was a big thing. Like you might think, wow, that was a massive thing. Because for starters, I always felt as though everyone is watching me while I eat.
Yeah. This is now there at the HPC, right?
It's now at HPC, yes. So I always felt as though everyone is watching me. Also because I now had to use a knife and a fork and I didn't know how to hold. Well, I had to learn how to hold them. So I'm like, oh shucks, I need to switch. This one needs to be on the right hand and this, so that whole thing. But I'm just saying to even just to eat together was big. So just speaks to the whole thing of how different we're all raised. Now, for someone to eat by yourself will be like the worst thing that can ever happen to you. But for me, that's normal.
Yeah.
I can do that, and I'm very much comfortable. Obviously, now I've learned and I've adopted to, just my context. But that was one of the strange things that I just felt to mention.
Yeah.
Just want to speak about how you're raised.
And you know how that has an impact on everything later on in life? Because if you think about the Bible, so now you read things like they're sitting around a table and they are breaking bread together. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Why is bread being broken? It's must cut in slices. We all get a slice. Why?
You buy it at Woolies.
Yeah, I buy it if I open up and I don't go
Already
to that
cut.
machine. I'm not that dunny with the
Yeah,
curlers
yeah,
in my
yeah,
hair
yeah.
going to the machine and cutting my bread in that machine.
Yes,
I'm not
classic.
that person. No?
Yeah,
I go
yeah,
buy the little baggie that's
Yeah.
already cut.
Cut,
Okay,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to break bread with someone? What does it mean to share salt? We've got a salt thing that's got a little button on top, and it's going, and
Oh yeah.
you're right. And we just, what do you mean share salt? What do you mean when you say we are having communion or we're communing? I mean, the root word of communing and communion and commune and is community,
That
togetherness,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so now, in my context, we grew up, you eat meals together. All meals are together, and there is not a TV on. TV is switched off. Even, I kid you not, even to this day, I want to sit and watch TV when I eat. Like, I love it.
Oh,
yeah.
I want
I
to sit
love
there,
it.
and I literally don't want to watch something that I need to follow. I put on, like, comedy. Like, I would literally put on sometimes stand-up comedy. Now I know it's frowned upon being a Christian and listening to stand-up, but I would put on stand-up comedy and I'm like, okay, now I'm listening to whatever, and I'm eating. But when my kids are together, no, we don't. TV off.
Yeah.
TV off. We go into the kitchen. We sit by the table. We sit around the table. You know what? And it's not that we have these intense conversations. My kids are very young, so there's no
Yeah.
intense conversations. But I'm guessing in time, intense conversation will happen. And that idea of you can't leave the table because you are offended. There's no leaving the table. Even now, we would teach our children, you can't leave the table. You have to say, may I be excused? And
Yeah.
only the head of the table is allowed to excuse you. Who's the head of the table? In my case, it's the father of the house. And so in my case, I need to say, you can now be excused. Even if you were done within the first 10 minutes, you sit and you wait until we're all done. And when you are excused to go do something. It's not just excused.
Yeah.
Right? How does that have an effect? It has a profound effect. Let's say we sit in church and somebody says, let's have communion. And you're thinking, oh, okay, what does that mean? Oh, it means we're going to eat bread and wine now. Okay, I'll take my little, depending on the church you're from, I'll take my little bread and my little cup and I go stand outside. No, wait. That's not what communion means. It's not what Jesus meant anyway. In Jesus' time, they're sitting around a table. There's no television on. What are they conversing about? What are they speaking? Because it doesn't really say, does it?
Yeah.
Are they speaking? Are they sitting in
Having a
silence?
feast.
And they just, if I'm having a feast, I'm not speaking. I'm just filling my face with fat chicken.
Interesting. They're approaching about how many fish they
Hard-bodied
caught that
chicken.
morning.
Yeah. If you're a fish guy.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think from my side, very similar to Arnold.
Seven Alarm.
Oh,
We
yes,
did watch
was
that
one
when I
of
was
them.
like,
Whatever, bro. You watch Seven Alarm.
yeah, when I was like in primary school.
Whatever, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we watched TV. I can remember we had an Mnet decoder.
That's it. You were one of those
Mnet
people on that side of the.
decoder, boys.
You were you were on the Lani side of the of
So
the, of the watts.
I think our lifestyle wise, or if things weren't Lani, I think more entertainment wise. So it's more like we always watched we watched TV and while we were eating, so we didn't have like a lot of conversations and stuff. And then there will be that one day when my dad is like, we're gonna sit at the table. And everyone's like, oh, like nobody wants to sit at the table because we all know we're just gonna sit there and stare at each other. Literally,
Yeah.
like
That's the
nothing's
worst.
gonna. And I think it's very interesting because I'm exactly the same. When I eat my food, I want to watch something. Okay, I don't want to I'm eating my food. I don't want to think now.
You're thinking
I just
hard.
want to eat my food
Yeah.
and chill. Okay, but when I eat at Sanelise, okay,
Who's
This
Annalise?
is my girlfriend. So if I eat at her place, like she stays with roommates, so we go there. I go there and I eat with them. Literally, there's no TV. That's the rule. We made a rule that when we eat, we don't. Obviously, in the start, you don't understand it because of your norms.
Yeah.
So for you, it's normal to watch something and eat. But for her, it's about let's have conversation. Let's commune together
Yeah.
as we're eating. And I think that's a beautiful thing because that's the way she grew up. She grew up, and it's still like that. When you go to the farm where her parents stay in KwaZulu-Natal, you go there, when you eat, we sit at the table.
Yeah.
Everybody sits at the table and we eat and we're having a good time together.
Yeah,
We literally tell each other about what's happening during the day and tell stories and I think that's very cool. It's a cool concept because I think if you have, it's a very strict, you shall sit by the table and thou shalt not leave unless thou said. Then people are going to feel like, oh, okay, now I'm forced to be here. And I don't really want to talk because am I allowed to talk even?
Yeah.
Type of thing. But when it becomes that like really close experience of, yes, this is I want to sit at the table because I want to be like involved in each other's lives, type of thing.
So some of that is, the question is right there, because this is now where we get to truth. So what about, what truth in your life is true whether you like it or not? And so something like that, because I come from the other side. I come from a family where we did not watch TV. We sat at the table and we had rules and we had so and so and so, and it stimulated relationships within my family. And so to this day, my family knows when we sit together, we can converse around the table and it's not weird. You know when you get into someone's car and there's complete silence in the car, and it's and some people are like, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. This is an Uber drive. We are silent.
Yeah.
There's no, there's no, this is how it. But for me, it's very awkward. I can't be silent in a car,
Yeah.
so I have to put on the radio. Even when I'm alone, I have to put on the radio. I can't be silent in a car. There must be conversation. There must be stuff happening. But where does that come from? Because does it come from my personality? No. Does it come from my, it comes from my past experiences. Forced experiences, might I add. And so now I enjoy sitting and watching TV while I eat. And so intrinsically, my intentions tell me that I want to be merry with others, but I don't really want to. I want to be alone. I want to sit and watch TV while I eat. But my cultural upbringing tells me, no, you don't do that. You sit at the table. So now the question is, for my kids, initially, it'll feel, sure, rules and so and so and so. But honestly, over time, it won't feel like rules anymore to my children. It'll feel like the norm. They won't feel that there's a rule, you have to ask for permission to get up. It's just the norm. The norm is you honor your mother and father, and the father is he's the ruler of the house. He's the boss of the family. He's the one that calls the shots, and so that's what I can expect from my father. That's what he's going to do. He's going to, and my father is not going to be be unnecessary. He's going to, in a loving way, tell me yes or no. I almost want to say, even if you come from a broken family, there are some things that are, I guess, culturally based that could be right, and there are things that are culturally based that could be wrong. And so truth can't be something that's only cultural, because cultures change and cultures do things differently. So I'm wondering, think about some of our institutions. Let's say marriage, things that you work, commerce, commuting to work, driving, being. Think about things like marriage. Let's say, for example. So in my family, or in my way of growing up, there's a mom and a father, and they had a wedding. And there was a certain amount of people that went to that wedding. That was an appropriate amount. You would hear the amount and you'd be like, yeah, okay, that's appropriate. Like, I don't know how many it was. Maybe it was 100. I don't know. Maybe it was 80. That's an appropriate amount. If I hear of a wedding where there's 400 people, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Was it like, what happened there? But
400.
Yeah.
Yep. Easy.
Hectic.
Now, for Arnie says easy. What does that mean?
Legit. No, he is. And
For me, it's normal.
yeah. Look, listen.
Do you know 400 people?
That's
If,
so
but see, that's what maybe you're missing it. It's not about do you know. It's not about do you know.
It took a village.
You
to
see what I'm
raise the
saying?
person.
So I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, I'm just trying to play a number game in my head. So I've been to both. I've been to a wedding where, so I remember I grew up in a village, as I said earlier. So in the village, if there's a wedding, right? So you will send out letters to the people that you want to invite. So this is a bit of like a more formal thing, especially if like your relatives and close relatives or extended relatives. But also, if you're in a village, there has to be an announcement at church. If you're part of church, there's a whole announcement. So like a month building up to your wedding, your wedding becomes part of the Sunday service announcement. So I remember we've got so and so's wedding. At least that's how it's done back home.
Like a
right?
reminder.
Yeah. And so there are many reasons for that reminder.
Yeah.
One also being that so that the church you can go buy gifts. So that's kind of expected that you bring gifts.
Yeah.
Okay? However big or small. But also by just that, the whole village is actually it's invited. You might not, you're not going to stand up and intentionally over the mic invite the whole village, but we want to be there. Like everyone wants to be there. So I've been to a wedding where a couple of such weddings where almost half the village would come, however big or small the village is, right?
Sure.
And then I remember the weirdest wedding I've attended was actually a good friend of mine who got married at some some mountains out, like 4-hour drive from Pretoria. And I kid you not.
Drakensberg.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think he legit got married there. There was not more than 50 people, not more than 50. That was the most weirdest thing for me, because I was like,
And all the fancy food.
I'm thinking to myself, what's going on here?
Private school food.
Yeah, legit. It was a, and for starters, we sat at what do you call it, like a dry grass where they made.
The baller.
hay
Yes,
bales.
and then we sat on that. Was
Baller.
yeah, but so I'm just
Bales.
saying that it's interesting
Yeah.
to think of that. Just the how different and diverse these two worlds are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because what you find is in my mind, I was in the wedding game a little bit here in Pretoria, just DJing and marrying people, and there's all weddings look the same. There's a common denominator. It's never less really than 50, and it's never more than 150. It's always kind of the same. It's hella expensive. Like I'm talking about
It's
like
ridiculous.
you more recently part of this. I can't remember what people charge for like wedding venues, but let's say a normal wedding venue price is say between 50 and 100K, and that sometimes doesn't include your food. Sometimes
Yeah, it literally includes only the
venue hire
venue place.
that you can be there and you can use the toilets, right?
Yeah, and then you have to like pay. I know, like for instance, some places they ask like 600 rand per person for the 3-course meal.
Yes.
So,
So the food is boiled in water that the Pope has blessed.
That's ridiculous. Sorry, it's served on a golden plate.
Yeah, and so you would have that, and so every wedding has the same things. There's the ceremony, and there's the reception, and there's it's always the same. It's always at the same time. It's always about 3:00 on a Saturday, or if you're
Yeah,
cheap
so always,
like myself on a Friday, and there's photos, and so there's always this moment where the couple goes for photos, and they have to do it before the sun goes down, and then the rest of the people have canapes. And then there's sometimes a band playing
Yeah.
at the canapes, and there's like little finger food and people. That's where most people get drunk, is at the canapes, because
they start there.
that's where they start.
Yeah.
And so that's where you just had the wedding ceremony, right? And so it was this beautiful sermon, and it was just talking about God and glory and
But
church
love.
and love,
Yeah.
and like the wife submits to the husband, so shall the church submit to Christ. And it's those Ephesian verses, and it's this beautiful love is this, and it's this, and this, and love does not this, and this, and then canapes, and people go,
Canapes and then in the rest of the, especially when people are dancing,
and then
then it
goes-
gets wild.
and then it gets
Till
very,
like 12 o'clock is fine, but I've had a wedding where I DJ till 2 o'clock, and anything past 12, things just go
Just
out
wanna
of
be
hand,
there.
bro. Like things break constantly.
yeah. Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother, he used to say, "Nothing good ever happens at 2 a.m."
Yeah, like just I just want to double click. I want to come back to that bad intentions, good actions, or other way around? Like, are our intentions always good? Because we obviously have been majoring a lot now on authenticity. So just thinking about what it means to be authentic, and I just realized that thing of, okay, yes, is your intentions always good? No. Most probably there's times where it can be a good thing, where it's in line, but I think, and that's why it's so awesome when Jesus is saying, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. So his life, the words and the works of Jesus Christ redeems you from your bad intentions. That makes sense? So there's yes, sometimes, not always, my intentions aren't always good. Okay? But in that time, it's because I was relying on myself, or I was relying on not God. That makes sense? But who saves me from that? It's Jesus. And when Jesus is the one that saves me, we can be, because it's that whole thing of you come to God, because it's almost like, can your bad intentions separate you from God? Okay? But either way, Jesus paves the way for you to be reconciled to God. Jesus is the doorway to God. So there's a thing of you being with God, okay, and the more you are being with Him, the more you become like Him. And then you realize, yes, my intentions is not good at this moment. And I do believe the Holy Spirit many times, He then probes your mind to tell you, hey, your intentions are bad for what you are thinking now. So now that leads you to repenting or just changing your mindset, renewal of the mind. So I was just thinking about that, like Jesus reconciles us even if we have bad intentions. He reconciles us. It's His love that enables us to love others, to love Him first and love other people. And then I was thinking about, okay, authentic church. So if we say authenticity, yes, we don't always live we're not always authentic, okay, because we have the fear of man, or we have other intentions of why we want to do some things. But if we would say authentic church, and then we are saying it's a church community that is defined by what God is saying, by the works of Jesus. That's defined by the life of Jesus. Okay, obviously that's not how it is. That's not the reality. So my thinking is, how do we get people to that place? How do we get people to trust in Jesus? Okay.
It kind of does lean into that idea of righteousness, right? Righteousness meaning being in right standing, being right. And so Christians are actually the only people who can really be righteous.
Yeah.
Like, that's a bold statement. How can you say that? Are the Christians the goody two-shoes? Are the Christians the guys doing all the right things? How can you say that Christians are the only ones that are righteous? Okay, well, here's why. It's because of what you just said.
Yeah.
Because Jesus makes us righteous. And so somebody comes up to me and says, Heinu, are you a righteous person? I say, yes. Yes, I am. But not by myself. Which is one of the greatest issues in church community, is self-righteousness. It's the worst thing that could possibly happen, is becoming self-righteous, which is saying, I am in right standing. I'm doing the right thing. I am holy because of what I can do, because of what I've done, because of myself, meaning self-righteous. And the problem is, on the surface, you can't see the difference. On the surface, you can't see the difference between somebody that is righteous by Christ or somebody that is righteous by self. both people bought the coffee.
It looks good on the outside.
Both people
Yeah.
bought the coffee.
Yeah.
And so both people look
Yeah.
like they're doing the right thing on the outside. But on the inside, my intention was I was buying the coffee for selfish means versus I was buying coffee because of me dying by Christ, being humbly coming and saying, let's say I bought coffee for Arnold. And so on the one side, I might say I bought coffee for Arnold because I've got some other intentions. I want to win over his heart. I want to win over his favor. I want him to like me more. I want him to respect me more. I want him to think of me higher than I am actually. I want him to view me as more than I really am. How is that for authenticity?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm giving you the coffee. And so to Arnold, he gets the coffee and he thinks, sure, Heine's such a great Christian. But it is the worst thing that could possibly happen because it was self-righteousness. And he's going to catch me out on it because I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah.
And I can't help but being a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Versus, I buy the coffee because Christ compels me to. And only by His blood and by His grace, I am forced. And when I say the word forced, I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean it. That
It's His grace that enables you.
enables is probably a
Yeah.
better word, right?
Yeah.
And so it enables me to want to love Him more. And so I buy the coffee out of a complete love. And it's not because of what the coffee can bring
Yeah.
me. It's just by being righteous because Christ made me righteous.
Yeah.
And so I can be authentic. I can bank on truth. But my connection is Jesus.
Yeah.
But no one would know that because it's internal.
Yeah. But I'm just thinking as well when we talk about this, because on the other hand, I'm just thinking, a couple of things that's flowing around in my head now. Where one, talking about let's say a born again or someone who's a child of God in that sense, versus someone who's not born again, right? And so we're talking about these two people's nature.
Yeah. That's
So thinking of intentions, where or someone once said a person who's not born again, even their intentions are tainted by sin, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. The thing is, their reality, what they define as real, what they define as, or what they're going to accept as what's going to make me as a person, is not God,
Yeah.
or is not. And why is that important to be God? It's because God is the creator.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't believe that, your identity, who you are, your reality is going to be shaped what they call a dualistic worldview. That's the Western worldview is a dualistic worldview of external reality, the physical that we see, but also an internal reality, the things that we feel. So that's the only thing that's going to define who I am as a person is what's happening external and internal. And then what happens is that thing of they rely on those things. So the things that they believe and the things that they value are defined by those two things. Defined on what's happening outside of their internal reality, what they feel, but also how they feel about things.
Yeah.
That, as we spoke earlier. So, and I think about, just about that. Then you get the Trinitarian worldview, where other cultures also have that, where they believe in all three, but in the end, there's a thing of a Christ-centered worldview, where Christ is the center of all three realities. So those three realities are external reality.
So Christ resides in all three of the...
Yes, internal, but also in the eternal.
Yeah.
And then there's this flow that I've learned is where it stems from the eternal reality into your internal, then it expresses out of your external. That makes sense. And there's that thing of where your spirit in you compels your internal reality to do something about the external or to act upon this thing. So the Holy Spirit compels you to buy that coffee, not because He forces you, That makes sense. But it is the love of Christ that's in you that
Yeah.
that makes you want to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I mean, that's what I'm thinking in this line. The whole thing of nature is that if you're a person who's not born again, their nature, so Dana touched on earlier as well, is a thing of by nature we are children of wrath. We love sin. I use that line, and this is that the same language really. We're quoting scripture. It's what Paul uses again in Ephesians 2. Is what Paul uses again in that Romans chapter 3 verse 9 to 17, where he will say words like they are what is it? Their mouths are an open grave.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you begin to see just this downward progression of how sinful we are. The reason why I'm thinking of this is, and this gives me hope when I think of my sometimes bad intentions, is that exactly that word ever do is that Christ redeems, he continues to redeem my bad intentions, sanctifying me to be more like Christ, and so he accepts that, right? In that as opposed to a non-born again person who even their good intention is bad because of where it comes from. Because by nature you are opposed to the things of God. And so I think that's why I say God, it's basically just at the end of it, at the core of it is an insult towards God. Even your good deeds are as filthy rags. And so anything that comes not from faith is sin, Paul would also say. And so a person who's not born again, by nature, they cannot do anything, biblically speaking, good. And so from the start, their intentions are twisted.
And so how ridiculous is it then to speak to non-believers about modifying their behavior?
So it's sad.
Definitely.
Think about the absolute ridiculous. Yeah, like think about how ridiculous. Hey, stop doing that to your wife, because that's not good. And then that person might just say, not good according to who?
Yeah.
Not playing by your rules.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
what you know, and thinking about Christians and that word judgment. I don't know if you've seen. Probably seen it somewhere in your life, where people just have commentary and they say, the Bible says that you're not allowed to judge. Yes, but
flows around everywhere.
yes, don't judge people.
Judge Christians.
I guess
That's what it says.
Yeah,
You can judge your own brother.
yeah, you can. And when we say judge Christians, we don't mean put on your little judging hat. Don't put on your little toga. What's that?
Yeah.
Your robe
Yeah.
and walk around with your gavel and judge people on the street.
Doop rock.
Yeah, it's not go into church and walk into judgment. It's not even saying judgment. It's saying internally, because you've confessed Christ, it means you are supposed to have a new nature. And therefore, when somebody sees that your new nature is not manifested, you go and say, hey, person, don't do that, because that's not what Christ would do. And seeing as you play by Christ's rules, that's not a good thing. And therefore, in that sense, I just judged you. But it's not I judged you because of what I deem as good. I judged you on what you yourself professed as good, as the standard.
Sure.
And so, walking around, I almost want to say, there was this, I once went with a friend, and we went into a bar, and we were just having conversation, and we were playing pool. And while we were playing, it was this friend and I, and he was with me in church, and we challenged a bunch of guys to pool, and there's a longer story there. But and we're having conversations. And at one stage, the guy, the other person that we, a non-believer, just a normal guy, he said, like he was swearing. and and the swearing is normal swearing, and then he said God's name, right? And so he says God's name, boom, and this friend that came with me, he's like, whoa, stop, listen, you can swear all you want, but don't use my God's name in vain. And in that moment, and so
Did he pull out
obviously,
a sword, like a crusader or something?
yeah, it's
Chop off the ear.
chop off the ear.
Yeah.
And right there, I mean, it's
Okay.
kind of this person looks up in disdain, and he's like, what now? What's the
Yeah,
problem now?
yeah.
I mean, I've been swearing, I've been saying the worst things, profanity galore,
Yeah.
and now that little word just triggered you. What just happened? It's like, no, I'm a Christian, and you can't speak that way around me because that's very disrespectful. And in my
That's a good way
mind,
to say it.
yes, but in my mind, I was like, I'm going to see this play out. I'm just going to, I'm going to, I'm just going to shut up. I'm going to see this play. I'm just going to keep quiet and be like, hey, bro, you go for it. You go for a fight. Let's see what happens.
I'll back you.
No, I'm not going to back you at all. I'm
Just
just
for the fighting.
and
I'll take videos.
and so this person that we were playing pool with, he looks up and he's like, bro, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but I don't care if I disrespect you. And this just fueled my friend. Like, it just fueled him. Like, what do you mean you don't respect? Like, we should respect people of all, nations and colors, and we should. And this person, so the friend of mine gets so rallied up and so angry so quickly, and this other person is just so calm, and he's just, I hear you, bro, but I don't ascribe to it's not my standard. This name, and he said it again, is not somebody that I have respect for. I do not respect ... I do not, I'll say it all day. I'll mix in his name with other swear words. Like, hear what this sounds like. So and so, blah blah, beep beep beep. And so this friend of mine, literally, the pool game ended, and he takes his things and he's, I can't deal with this, and he walks out. I think to myself, that is such an interesting way of viewing the world, where his expectation, my friend's expectation, was that this person should have a common decency, and this person just called his bluff and said, well, I don't have your common decency, because I'm not under the same rule. I'm not, the standard's not the same. In fact, I laugh at your standard. In fact, I laugh at the fact that you have something to reference back on, because my morality is based from something else. And there's a conversation there. So on what
Definitely.
do you base your morality?
So yeah, I think that's a very good comment on, or just that question of where does your morality come from? And I think, the thing is, church consists of people. Okay, because it's that question: is church a building, or is it like a gathering of people? And that's what we see. What you see in the word is that when it speaks about the church, it speaks about people that are gathering together, that are under a mission, that are under. I love this. There's this definition of church where it says the Greek word being used is ecclesia, and it says followers of Christ who derived their identity and mission from Jesus. So I'm just going to stop there. So, and I think that is just, it speaks about the purpose also of a Sunday. That's because if your understanding of church is going to affect how you see like a Sunday. Why do we come here on a Sunday and do what we do? That makes sense. Like, why? Like, have you ever thought about it? Like, because I think, from my side, it's different. Obviously, that's what you do. That's what I do. Vocationally, I equip people to minister. So, and a Sunday is part of that. It's part of, and how do we switch to that? How do I switch to that thing of, okay, but a Sunday is about serving, and it's not necessarily my job, but it is, but it's also not. And managing that is quite interesting. Yeah, so I was just thinking about and then getting authenticity in that, because obviously the authenticity of the people, getting us, and I think, yes, we're saying a community, but community exists out of individuals that come together, and each individual is still going to be impacted as an individual when it comes to their identity. And I think what I understand is through this, like through the first episode, and also as we're speaking here, it's almost like our identities as people are defined by Jesus, but it's almost like Jesus uses people to do that. So it's both, it's individually and through people. And as those two things meet together, and it's the same. I might be wrong, yeah, but I'm just thinking about that. Like when we say authentic church community, like what does it mean? Like in the end, if we could give one line for that statement, what would be that one line be?
I think the biggest thing is to maybe stay away from the one line.
Yeah.
And why I'm saying that is because it's so complex. And so one line will not do, it would be irresponsible,
Sure.
right, to just make it a one-liner. Because even as you were speaking now, I was just confronted even with my own biases and my own way of thinking about the word, the community, which we haven't really jumped into it. Maybe for a next episode, solely commit to community and what that means and how we can get into that. But I think this ecclesia, this the gathering of people, this assembly actually of people coming together, people as individuals, which is a very Western way of thinking of people as family and conglomerate, which is a very otherworldly, so Eastern way of thinking about it. What's just the notion of right and wrong? When we say right and wrong, we're not just talking about good and evil. We're talking about should and should not. We're talking about what ought to be, which is a very interesting thing when we talk about philosophy of morality. Now, I'm not talking about when we start quoting Kant and these guys. I'm thinking about even with normal people thinking about right and wrong and thinking about what should be and what ought to be. And let's make it very simple. Somebody wakes up on a Sunday morning and they get ready for church because that's what you should be doing. It's what you ought to do. If you don't do that, there is shame that should befall you.
Well, almost that comes back for me to the intention. Like, what is your intention behind that? Because for me, it's very difficult because of just the way, and it comes back to that thing of this. I love this conversation because it comes back, now it exposes, like, it's about how you grow up. So if you grow up like you shall go to church type of thing, it's almost like the only reason why you go to church is because you must. It's not like you want to.
But is it possible? Is it possible that even in you not wanting to, but doing because you must, could that be a good thing?
So I'm just thinking on back to how we're raised.
It's a good question.
So, is it wrong, using you now as a family man? Is it wrong for you to raise your children talking about doing almost the opposite, for lack of a better word, to how you were raised? Meaning, you are now having dinner as a family but watching TV together. Is that wrong? Or is sitting around the table having a meal together like you were raised, is that now right? And I'm just thinking, Is there maybe not something else there that we often miss? Is the explaining to your children that, hey, listen, the reason why we do this, or we're doing this because of this. So I think even if I don't want to do it, I understand where you're coming from. Therefore, I will.
The whole thing of the principles behind it.
The
all
principle behind the action, right? And so
there might be deeper principles behind things that I never share with my children.
yeah,
I never get the chance to share. It's a deeper principle. They don't get it. But because it's ingrained, it changes who they are. So for us, for example, Arnie, so we do sit around a table. We don't watch TV. What I'm saying is, I want to watch TV.
yeah,
I'm saying even if I grew up around a table without television at mealtime, I grew up.
Still want to.
I still want to sit at the TV. That's what I want to do. So it's not only ingrained, but there's almost this. Sure, but I think there were principles and things behind why my parents were doing that. Let me give you guys an example. So when I went to school, it was very important. We were in a school that you have, obviously you've got a uniform. I mean, think of that word. Uni, meaning what?
Yeah. Together,
One.
united. Yeah.
And form, meaning in if you say, I wear a uniform, form is the what you look like. And so uniform means all look the same. There's a reason why uniform informs me. My uniform informs me of where I'm part of.
Yeah.
So my school, the fact that we all wore the same uniform helped me to understand that we are in this community uniform. Right? So we are of the same cloth.
There's because I know there's the difference between unity and uniformity. Where uniformity is everybody looks the same.
Yes.
Everybody
So
needs to
you
act the
want
same.
people to have unity,
Yes.
but sometimes the way that you teach people about unity
Yes.
is by showing them uniformity. And
Yeah.
so in school, I had to cut my hair very short. That's how it is at school. We literally had to stand in long queues with a teacher walking by with a ruler, measuring your hair, pulling down your hair over your ears, over your forehead. It's not allowed to go past your eyes. It's not allowed to touch your collar. It's not allowed to. The girls, I kid you not, they had a ruler that they would put on the girl's knee, and then it's not allowed to. The skirt is not allowed to be shorter than a certain. And so if the skirt doesn't touch, they literally put the girls. They had to go and sit on their knees, or go sit on their knees, and then they have to have 4 fingers above the knee for the skirt, because that's the way it is. And so I look at that as a child, and I say, this is ridiculous. Money and time and resource was spent. A teacher gets a salary from, I don't know, taxpayer money,
Yeah.
so that they can let me stand in a queue and check my hair. When are we going to learn the real stuff? When are we going to really get to what is important in this life? Okay, but pause. Some of those things, and not all of them, some of it is really ridiculous, but some of those things were put there purposefully so that you teach a child how to fit in, how to. And it's not just fitting in. It's not just standing alone. It's not just. It's purposefully. Then it might be for political reasons. It might be some. I don't know. South Africa has lots of political things happening, even before even in apartheid times, there were reasons for being in the certain ways, and so we're not going to go into that now. The point is just that there's something about community that even if you don't want to, it might be good for you. And so
that makes sense.
and so we as people need to be able to decide, or we as people are given the mandate to be wise. The Bible loves talking about wisdom. And so how can we be wise in a world where there are things that we are told, this is how you ought to be, but I don't want to? And people say, this is how you ought not to be, but I want to. And when do I have liberty? Meaning, when do I have freedom to choose, and when do I not have liberty? When can't I choose? When can I decide, I am now not a he, she, and I am a they, them. That is what I am now, because I've got the liberty to choose. Versus, I want to come to church not wearing a tie. I want to come to church. I want to come to church with my dog on my lap.
Yeah.
I
That
want
sounds
to,
fun.
depending on the dog
Bring your dog to church.
Or the church.
or the church.
Yeah.
I was
Imagine you've got a St. Bernard and it sits on your lap.
Oh, that's,
Anyway, so when am I allowed? When is it okay for me to choose what I ought to be? When am I allowed to be an
want.
individual
yeah.
and decide who I am as an individual? And when am I supposed to be part of the uniformity? When am I supposed to be part of the community, irrespective of? And I think there is some interesting conversation.
So what you're saying is, do you want uniformity? Or do
I'm
you
saying
want
the
unity?
intention of uniformity is what makes the difference, and not uniformity in and of itself.
Okay. That makes sense. Because it's the whole thing of like when you look at cults. Cults are like uniformity is like they major most probably on that.
Yeah,
Because-
but what is the reason? What is
the
so that
worship
you are
of-
brainwashed,
Yeah.
right? So that you are made nothing. So that you are that your identity is shaped by. But uniformity. Let's. So my kids, right? So I'm not going to. My kids love to wear that they don't mind wearing yesterday's clothes today. They don't mind being dirty. They don't see the dirt. They don't care. They just want to play. Honestly speaking, I know, like now today, my kids are on holiday. They're not going to school. So this morning, when my kids wanted to put on their clothes, they went to all of the clothes they wore yesterday. It's still laying there on the floor because classic children, they didn't do what I told them to put it away. And so all of the dirty clothes are still there on the floor. Honestly speaking, are they going to get dirty again? Yes, they're going to get crazy dirty. They're going to get.
Yeah.
But I want my children to learn the principle of take your dirty clothes, put them where they need to be so that we can wash them. You get new clothes out of your cupboard. You dress neatly because it's important to be neat. It's important to be clean, and it's important because it's all of it's. I wouldn't say this to my child. It's because of respect. So I wouldn't go to my child at 7 years old and say, the reason why you need to look presentable is because you want to show that you respect yourself. Because that sentence will not make sense to him. He will not understand what I'm saying. However, I want to teach him that subtly. There's a subtle. I'm teaching him.
Until you can communicate.
Yes, but here's the honest truth. I'm probably going to forget to communicate that.
Yeah.
I'm probably somewhere. My son's going to get to 16 years old, and he's going to be like, "Hey, I don't care about all of this. I just want to wear rags. Let me get tie-dye T-shirts and drive in
Dreadlocks.
and get dreads." All right. And so many parents look at that and they say, "Yeah, my kid completely hooked out. He went through his teenage phase and he completely lost everything we gave him." No. Wait. His behavior is manifesting that he's maybe he's maybe challenging the behavior. But the very reason why he's challenging the behavior is the reason why I wanted it there in the first place. I wanted him to be autonomous and be respectful and respect himself and be able to make choices for himself. That's why we did this. The fact that that's the manifestation of that is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. And I realize that this might be a conversation for another day. And so maybe coming back to this idea of community and church, and I guess we got into the word of uniformity and all of those things. I think a good thing to ponder about, we're not going to talk about it now, but something just to ponder about is think about your intentions. Think about what is right and wrong in your life. Who decided what was right and wrong in your life? Is that a good place to base my morality or my ought to be-ness from? Is that a good place? Oh, I'm doing this because my parents did it. Okay, well, that's not necessarily a good thing. And then lastly, is if I want to pursue being authentic and I want to do it the way the Bible teaches, is there a possibility that authenticity is impossible without truth? And truth is impossible without a universal truth or a standard truth or a
Yeah.
standalone truth,
Okay, absolute.
absolute truth.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, who upholds that truth? Who keeps it there? Who keeps it standard? Who decides how absolute it is and holds that standard? If we believe in a God, we say that that's God. And so working that back is saying, because God is the one that upholds all truth, all truth must be God's.
Defines all truth.
He defines all truth.
Yeah.
It must be His. It means that even if something truth comes out of somebody's mouth that doesn't believe in God, it's still God's truth. Therefore, authenticity must be something that cannot actually be achieved without God. And so come back to those 3 words: authentic church community. Authenticity cannot happen without God. Church is for God, and community is by God. And so it's almost like the undercurrent of all of that. It's almost like God thought ahead when He had all of these things in mind.
Plan A. He always had plan A.
Yep.
No, I was literally just thinking about that. The thing is when it's authentic church community, authentic meaning for me, like just getting out of this, like defined by God, all things defined by God, meaning what you do, who you are, but also like redeemed. So I think that is important to know that if you rely on Jesus, He redeems you from the fakeness that you are living. And if you are living 2 lives, God can redeem you. He redeems you through Jesus Christ, dying and raising from the dead. And through the life of Jesus, the way that He lived His life, from that already upholds, let's say, the standard of authenticity. Or because authenticity is almost like if you're authentic, you are responding to who God says you are, to who God says other people are, who other people are, and like how things are supposed to be. So, and then where, as you said, that church, the gathering for God, where church is that assembly to worship God. And then community, just together with God, outside of that gathering. I think that is important. Understanding is outside of that. So, you said we're going to focus more a bit about community on our next episode, and just so we are excited for that. We want to thank you for joining us. Thank you, Arnold, for joining us today, and thank you, Hainu.
Lekker.
I'm excited for our next episode. So, if you enjoyed it, you can just please send us some feedback on if you're listening from Spotify. Spotify, we have questions that you can answer. We would love to hear your questions as a listener, and maybe answer some questions, or to hear what you think about. Think about what we are saying, or we're excited to hear from you as a listener. So please respond if you listen on Spotify. I'm not sure about Google Podcasts and Apple. I don't think you can respond to the episode on that, but if you are listening on Spotify, you can respond there. But we want to thank you. See you on the next episode as we're going to dive deeper into community. Cheers.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.